Welcome back to the Cool Table Live, listening to CJTM Met Radio in Toronto. We are here with a living legend, Drew from Strange Advance. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Man, I'm happy we could get to chat because obviously you guys are coming back in a big way, but so much has changed. And I think what makes this so interesting is I searched up Strange Advance on TikTok. That was something I was like, I wonder what TikTok has to say about Strange Advance. This is one of those platforms that wasn't even a conception at that time. Um, and the one thing that really stood out to me was the idea of genre. And in the time when you guys came out, you guys were called New Wave. What
Yeah.
what talk about, I guess, this that era of what New Wave was, because it was almost like a very ambiguous way of like naming genre, but that I feel like we don't have anymore.
Well, it was an interesting time period. The bottom line was this in the 80s, and I basically give credit to technology because all of a sudden you could be a non musician. You love music, but you can't play anything. And now you've got a synthesizer or a sampler in front of you, and you can make legitimate sounding music. And people did. I remember hearing all sorts of stories about, records coming out of people's bedrooms or basements or whatever. And and those songs were great. They were totally valid, great songs, and people loved them, and they did very well. And excuse me, you weren't planning on that, were you? Um, so yeah, they were making great music, and it was a new sound. Somebody coined the phrase "new wave," and it stuck. But here's our thing: we actually came up in the '70s, so and we were actually musicians. So we came at it from a different perspective. We were like 5 or 10 years older than those kids in England, making those new records. And so, but when we came out, I mean, we were always using technology. We had one of the first synthesizers in Vancouver. I had the first Mellotron in Vancouver. Um, we were, sort of cutting edge for our in our area, and at that time period. And so, using some of the same sounds, you know, the press is slightly lazy sometimes, and it was just the easiest thing to do to lump us into the new wave category. But we never really felt like we were, you know, necessarily 100% new wave because we had influences from all sorts of sources. We loved the British music scene, the pop scene. We loved Bowie and Mott the Hoople and Slade and Straubs, and we're into like prog rock and stuff, Genesis, King Crimson. That's where we came from. So musically, we were a little more dense than most new wave acts. I like to think that we had, you know, some depth there that that you could listen to our music, and no matter how many times you listened, you would always hear something new. Because there's so many things buried in the tracks and stuff. We had a lot of fun with that. But anyway, the bottom line was, yeah, we were in the new wave category, but I don't really consider us new wave.
Yeah, I didn't really think of you guys like that either. That's why I thought it was so interesting because that's it just feels like a phrase of the time. Like anyone who you could
Yeah,
fit into that, you would put into it because when you hear it now, I don't think that's how people would talk about it, and that's not a phrase people use anymore. So
no,
it's
not really.
yeah. So it's funny that there's this phrase was almost created and put all these groups into this box, and then we just deleted the
Yeah,
box. So
yeah.
very
Now,
interesting.
all that being said, the fact of the matter is that the '80s, uh, the '80s have a lot of interest. People are really digging into the '80s now, and I think it's because that breakthrough in technology allowed people that weren't trained musicians, hadn't gone through the same process as we had, but they still had great ideas and had no way to get them out. And now they did. They had a method to, as I say, make a record in their bedroom or whatever. And it was equally as creative and original and great as anything else that was being done by, 30-year seasoned veterans in recording studios in Nashville or LA or whatever. So great things came out of that time.
Let's go back in time, okay, to your musical history, including your dad and his band. What was, I guess, the discussions around you starting your own band with your father in terms of following music? Was it like a no-brainer? Did he have any advice for you? Just talk about that time in terms of going from playing in your dad's band to
Yeah.
starting your own thing.
Well, first of all, it was especially looking back on it, it was an awesome time period. That's how I started. I was a drummer originally. And when I was like 14 or 15, my dad was a sax player, played sax and clarinet, and played in big bands in Glasgow, and then moved out here and continued to play. And he had a little dance band. And when I say dance band, of course, the dances are the cha-cha or an old-fashioned waltz or something, and because he's playing for ballroom dancing. And so at the time, I was just like bored to tears because, I was a young guy full of piss and vinegar. And it's like I wanted to be, rocking out. And clearly when you're playing an old, Duke Ellington song, that's not exactly what's happening. But I went through that time period, then, you know, formed bands and started to play gigs and things. And did my dad have any advice for me? Oh my God. Yeah, nonstop fountain of good wisdom and knowledge acquired over the years. And yeah, he had and it's funny actually. The other day I was thinking of this. He at one point said, "Listen, when you write a song and you're not like 100% happy with it, so maybe you don't follow up and you don't do anything with it. Is there like one part of the song that's great? It's like, why don't you set that part aside and go through your catalog and find bits of failed songs that, take all the juicy parts, put them together, and you've got a great new song, you know." And when he told me that, when he gave me that idea, I thought, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Never followed through. And but the other day, I thought, yeah, what was I thinking? Of course, that's a great idea. I should really do that because like so many great ideas just get buried and lost. And
That's
and,
a
uh,
lot of
and I
what
feel
music
like,
is now. Like, think about all the songs that are 2 minutes long. And
yeah,
sometimes it's like a whole different beat from the first half, second half. I was saying to one of my friends,
yeah,
I'm like, that's just like a voice note idea that they just cleaned up, added it to another voice note idea to
hmm
2 minutes, 12 seconds. It's a song now. Because back in the
I
day,
know,
like 4 minutes was more the format. But now with these songs that are 2 minutes long, it's like, yeah, I don't even need to have two verses, a verse, a chorus. We got a song.
I know, I know. I've actually we put out a new CD a couple of years ago, and uh, and I had a couple pieces of music on it that normally I would have thought, oh, I really like this idea. I'm going to do something with it. But the problem is, I've got so many of those ideas waiting to be worked on. There's a good chance that these ideas will just disappear and never be heard of again. So I thought, oh, what the hell? I'm just going to put them on the record anyway. And they are literally, a minute and a half or 2 minutes long, and not a complete song, but that's okay because it's a complete idea. So and and I have the vehicle to to have it be heard. So I'd rather have it be heard than not.
Can you take me through the process of you guys getting signed? Obviously, there's a start of the band. You kind of have that moment where you're doing more shows, that buzz happens. What was the process of you guys getting signed, and what was that like?
Well, the first thing, remember back in those days, because this was like the late 70s, um, you were recording on tape. There was no digital recording at the time. and it meant that it sort of set the bar high because you had to book time in a recording studio to really, you know, be legit and stuff. There was no bedroom recording at that time period, so it was a case of raising money, going into the studio, you know, working on songs that recording songs that we'd written, and putting together a demo tape. And the first demo that we did, you know, maybe three or four songs or something, I jumped on a plane, went to Los Angeles, and started knocking on doors. And it's a very demoralizing process, I got to tell you. A lot of rejection. So, but it was an interesting process to go through. We did it again, and I did better. I was able to get into see more labels because you know they'd heard our earlier stuff and were interested, but not to the point of wanting to sign us. And so I went down, did the rounds. I went to Capitol Records and met a guy there who liked our stuff, but he said, "But let me play you a real hit." And he puts on music. Uh, who did music? That wasn't Boney M, was it? Pop, you know, pop music, pop, pop, pop music, pop, pop. Do you remember that song? Yeah. So anyway, he plays that for me, and it's like, now this is a hit song. He's like, yeah, yeah, that is a hit song. That's a good point. And he was very, very annoyed because Capitol Records wouldn't let him sign um, whoever, I think. Oh, anyway, it doesn't matter. Whoever that act was, Capitol Records wouldn't let him sign them because Capitol Records' deal was we sign you for the world or we don't sign you at all. And so he was unable to sign that band. He was still pissed about it. But anyway, so I go home. By this point, Daryl is playing in a cover band called Remote Control, and the keyboard player was friends with Brian Adams, and Brian Adams wanted to tour Canada, desperately wanted to tour Canada, and this was at the early stages of his career. So he decided to take Remote Control out as his band, and they toured across the country. And on the tour, Daryl would play Brian our demo tape. I don't know how many times he played it for him, but enough to the point where you know Brian's going, yeah, I like this stuff. You know, do you mind if I play it for someone? And he played it for a producer, Bruce Fairburn, and he also liked it, and decided to take it to guess who? Capitol Records. Except he knew a different guy at Capitol Records, and this guy was Dean Cameron, who ended up being the president of Capitol Canada. Um, but at the time, when Bruce played him our demo tape, he said, I already know this tape. I love these guys. I've got the tape here." So the Capitol in L.A. had sent him our demo, but he lost the packaging and didn't know how to reach us. So then on the scene comes Bruce Fairburn, and you know, boom, we've got a record deal. But the problem was we weren't ready for a record deal. Well, I mean, we were ready, but uh, it took like a year, maybe a couple of years to get over like imposter syndrome, you know, where you just thought any day now the phone's going to ring and it's going to be Capitol Records saying, "Oh, sorry, man, we signed the wrong act." You know, no, there was a name close to yours, but you know, we need the money back. And no, we're not putting out your record. It's like we were ready for that call at any time. And lucky for us, it never came. So yeah, that was us finally in the majors, signed to a big label, and getting lots of support. It was a very exciting time. Very exciting.
And it's such a, I guess, interesting story because, you know, you're going through a couple hoops more than once. But the main thing that stands out to me, which I feel like is so common at that time, is them not being able to reach you. Because usually you put your
Oh yeah.
information on the demo and sometimes it'd be the packaging. So sometimes if all they have is a demo, the packaging is wherever. It's like nowadays you don't really hear those stories of they don't know how to reach someone.
No,
It's
no.
like they're all over, they're easy to
Yeah,
find.
yeah, that's
Um,
right.
so it's like you're kind of playing it by chance, by like hoping,
Yeah.
you could find someone. Is there a record from your past that you feel better about now than you did then? Whether it's hearing it or playing it that you're like, oh, we actually did a good job on this.
I've been very pleasantly surprised at going back and reviewing all the old material, for deciding what to play live and stuff. Um, no, I'm not disappointed. I've never been disappointed in anything we've done. Um, something, I take it back. When we made the first record, uh, like I was saying, Bruce Fairbairn produced it. And he at that time he was famous for, I think all he'd really done was Loverboy. He'd done a few things, but he hadn't entered like it's sort of the upper ends of his career there when he was doing like Aerosmith and Bon Jovi and people like that. But because he had just come off of a Loverboy album, and they're more of a guitar rockier kind of act. He felt that we should have a guitar based, rockier song, and we're like, no, that's not necessary. It's not our style. We don't really need it. But anyway, Daryl ended up writing the song with Peter Bearing, a friend of Barry, sorry, a friend of Bruce's, and so he wrote this song called Prisoner, and it was a rocking out kind of tune, and it's fun to play. I mean, I was like I say, I was playing drums and keyboards at the time, uh, but stylistically, we thought, oh, this doesn't really fit. We would drop it from the album gladly. But anyway, we've added it to the set, and after all these years of kind of having mixed feelings about the song, now it's like, oh, this is a great track. It really pumps. It's a fun song to play. So but I would say that's probably the only song I've changed my mind about.
I think sometimes you get some great records out of those circumstances because it becomes like your version of that record. I've heard that with a lot of artists where they get kind of pushed to do a record they wouldn't normally do. But you still
Yeah.
have to kind of
Oh
make
yeah.
it your own. And I feel like great records come out of that because again, you do your own version of this record. Because sometimes that sound, I know you don't want to say, but you think that sound is like corny or not for you or, not
Yeah.
really your steez. And then once you put your own spin on it, it becomes something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, for instance, right now, Simple Minds are touring, and I can remember, reading how they hated "Don't You Forget About Me." It was a song that was handed to them, for the movie and Breakfast Club, and they didn't like it. They didn't want to do it. Now, of course, they understand. Oh, it's the cornerstone of their career, so they feel much better about it now. But at the time, I guess it's a common artistic reaction to sort of being pushed into a corner or something. You want to come out fighting? No, you can't force me to change my artistic ideals or whatever. And but in the end, sometimes, as you say, it does work out. You do add your own, flavor to it, and it actually becomes your song. I mean, when I think of Nothing Compares to You, I think of, Sinead O'Connor. I don't
Yeah.
think of Brent, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think too, it's like you almost have your artistic morals that you're like, I'm above this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of artists we have that in our own. And to be fair, it's like different for everyone. Depending on how you grew up, your artistic background, you're like, no, no, no. Doing things this way is kind of beneath me.
Hmm.
And then you learn quickly that it might not be, it might not be, and it might be okay.
Well, the great thing about today, and there are lots of not great things about today, but the great thing about today is you know, indie artists can spring out of anywhere and achieve success. I mean, obviously, if they're of this sort of Taylor Swift category or whatever, then the sky's the limit for them. But an indie artist can actually not be signed, not have all the heavyweight management and stuff behind it, and still tour, put out records and things, and be heard and make a living and be happy doing it. So that's a great thing, which didn't exist when we first came out. There were no successful indie artists. You had to be in it with a major label if you wanted any kind of success. That's the only way you were going to get on radio. So yeah, that's a nice aspect of today's scene.
Yeah, before we gonna get to our questions we ask everyone here on the cool table, I'm curious as to how you would look at your careers today because that's something I have in my notes of like you almost were trying to become as famous as possible to get your music heard. And nowadays there's an artist, at least for me, it feels like every single week who I've never heard of. I go to their page, they're doing 3,000 shows, like,
I know it's
they're
amazing.
touring. So how do you think would that have affected how you guys did things differently? Because I think from a sonic standpoint, you guys would have been, I think, big in that category, in terms of how you guys sounded sonically. Because I think, the sonics of the mainstream changed throughout your careers, and you guys were kind of a victim to that in my eyes. So how do you see it in terms of if you had come out, in the 2010s or 2020s, how that would have changed for you guys?
I think we would have been, you know, it would have been impossible for us to achieve any kind of success now. Um, at the time, it's like so many elements have to all fall into place in order to succeed. Um, you can be talented and you can be well connected, you can be lucky. You need to have all of that, and plus, be willing to put in the work in order to succeed. And I know that for myself, what I mentioned Taylor Swift. I don't actually own any Taylor Swift records, but she's obviously a talented singer songwriter. And but what I look at her when I look at her, I think you deserve every speck of success that you've had because I know the work that you've put into it. It's nonstop. It's 24/7. And for one, I love music. Music is my life. But I'm never going to do a Taylor Swift. I'm never going to, invest so much of my life. I like to have like a well-rounded life, work, a life balance, and all that. I don't think she's achieved that. And when we were growing up or coming up in the music business, I was talking about Brian Adams. Brian Adams is another one of those people. He's a workaholic, and he deserves every bit of his success because he's put the time and effort and the pain and the sweat and the tears. He's put it all on the line there, and so he's got a great career, and good for him. He deserves it. Uh, Unfortunately, I'm not that driven. I just like happen to be a person with creative ideas, and I like to get them out there, and it's I enjoy the whole process, but I'm never going to go to the nth degree in order to achieve it. So I don't know if I don't think that answers your question, but
You did call yourself the king of procrastinators. So
oh yeah, so that's true. That
yeah,
is
I
very
I
true.
I have to get with you on that one. So
Oh yeah.
there's something that people do when they get $100 million. They get an exotic animal. I don't know why this happened. This is just what people do, okay? Justin Bieber with his monkey, Michael Jackson with his monkey, Mike Tyson with his tiger. So, if you get $100 million, what animal are you gonna add to your life?
Well, I don't. I've got kind of a busy animal life right now because this is Ted. Ted, say hello to the nice man. Hello. And I don't know if any other animal would survive in a house with Ted because he hates everything, everyone and everything. So I'm not sure. It would have to be something something bigger than Ted because Ted would devour anything smaller than it. So yeah, I'm guessing like just a small cat, an ocelot or something like that. Or some, I don't know what the smallest cat would be, but I think that's about as exotic as I would like to get.
Yeah, it seems like Ted is in charge, and whatever Ted
Oh
says
yeah.
goes. So
Oh yeah.
100%. I understand.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Um, we have this segment on the radio show called Wednesday Wisdom. We look for motivational quote or saying either you remind yourself of or the people around you. So I want to know, what is that quote for you that either you've been saying for years or you just share with people around you when they're feeling down?
Well, now I'm just feeling stupid because I don't quote anything to myself. Um, I'm not a quote person. I admire quote people, that can pull out, well, as W.H. Auden said, in 1948. It's like, okay, well, that's beyond me. Something. The only thing uh, that I'm trying to remind myself these days, there is nothing to fear but fear itself. Fear. Oh, okay. Well, here's a quote for you. Fear is the mind killer. Thank you, Dune.
I like that one. I like my
Yeah,
dad is one of those people who just comes with quotes out of nowhere. I'm
yeah.
just like, where are you getting these from? It's like so and so said this in 1944. I said,
I love it. I love
yeah,
it.
I know
You know?
exactly what you mean. I like that one though. Fear is the mind killer.
Yeah,
It reminds me of something I say is like we all have to check in with our relationship with fear. It's like fear.
yeah.
It's like you can never break up with fear, but you
No.
got but you got to make sure you have a good relationship. So I like
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Absolutely. I will share something with you that I haven't told anybody yet.
Mhm.
Um, in my personal life, I've lived a life ruled by fear in many, many instances, and fear has stopped me, and I'm trying hard to stop that. I would like to be fearless. I would like to, be a brave person. And so I did something with a friend of mine on the weekend. We went to a nude beach. I was naked on a nude beach.
I love that for you. I love that for you.
That's way outside of my comfort zone, I gotta tell you. But it was very freeing. It was very freeing, and it was very nice, lying in the sun and a nice, cool breeze off the ocean. So it was that was a little breakthrough for me. So on my march towards being a fearless person.
Listen, that counts. That
Yeah,
absolutely counts. So we're gonna have to check in and see what you are up to next when it comes to the journey with fear. But I'm with you. I feel like just doing the thing, period, counts
yeah.
enough. It's like,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, like there's that phrase that someone says, whatever you want to do in life, you're gonna have to do it scared. And I'll never forget that because sometimes you almost want to wait till you're not scared anymore. And it's like, no,
Yeah,
life is not
yeah,
going to give you that option. You're going to have to do it while you're still scared. So I
yeah.
like that. I like that.
Taking a leap of faith, basically is what's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
listen, you are more fearless than me. I don't know if I could do that. I'll say this. I've been on a nude beach and I was one of the few people clothed. So
Right,
that
right.
lets you know.
Oh, I know,
Um,
I know.
where I'm at in that. But listen, I appreciate your time. I want to thank you for joining us. It's honestly been an absolute pleasure. For anyone who wants to check out what you guys have going on coming up, where can they tap in with you guys? What can they look forward to?
Well, we spend most time on Facebook, the Strange Advance fan page, and of course, strangeadvance.com. We try to, keep that updated so that we can point people to the shows and stuff. So yeah, either of those.
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate your time once again. And until next time, know yourself,
Thanks, Avery.
know your worth.